Welcome to Family History Mysteries, a podcast that tells the stories uncovered through family history research, the unexpected stories of everyday people. I am an avid family historian who has been compiling my family tree for over 15 years, with nearly 20,000 people recorded in my trees. And please put a review on my podcast. That will certainly help in getting the word out there and creating more listenership for the podcast. Episode 147, A Goldfields Photo. In my research on Bernardt, Holtermann and Henry Merlin, I came across a fantastic photo of Mr Henry Rapp, a gold miner, and his wife Mary, taken by Merlin's American and Australasian Photographic Company. I was immediately intrigued to know the story behind the young couple. Heinrich Caspar Rapp, known in Australia as Henry, was born in Germany in 1842. He was one of 5 children born to Caspar Rapp and Franziska Kippel. He came out on the ship Philosopher in 1869 at 29 years old. His 2 brothers, John and Jacob, had already emigrated in 1855, so he headed to Hill End, New South Wales to join them. He applied for naturalisation with his brothers the year he arrived, as he wished to purchase land at Hill End, and he listed himself as a miner. He married Johanna Maria Franziska Spon, known as Mary, at Hill End on the 7th of January 1873 when he was 31 and Sophia was 18. Mary was born at sea on the 25th of October 1854 on board the Undine near the Cape of Good Hope, and the family arrived in New South Wales on the 12th of February 1855. Her parents were also German, and Mary was the second youngest of 7 children. Only her brother Charles survived infancy. He was born on the 2nd of August 1857 in Sydney. He was a poultry farmer at Nobbs Point at Canterbury. He married Catherine Saunders at Raymond Terrace on the 21st of July 1885. They had 5 children, 3 surviving infancy, and Charles died in May 1925 at Undercliff, aged 67. And Charles had a death notice. Death of Mr Charles Spon. The death took place at his residence Carlsruhe, Wardle Road, Marrickville, at the age of 68. Mr Charles Spon in his early days lived at Miller's Forest, leaving for Marrickville 35 years ago, where he became a prominent and useful citizen and where his property became very valuable and the centre of a densely populated suburb. His wife predeceased him 2.5 years ago. And on the 9th of April 1926, for auction, Undercliff Homes. Properties in Undercliff, forming part of the estate of the late Charles Spon, will be sold. The houses are excellently placed, being near Dulwich Hill and with a series of parks and recreational grounds on all sides. So getting back to Henry and Mary. Henry and Mary Rapp had a daughter, Franziska Mary Rapp, who was born on the 27th of October 1873 at Hill End, who died on the 8th of February 1874, aged a little over 4 months. And Henry Rapp died at Hill End on the 31st of January 1874, aged only 32. And on the 9th of February 1874 it says, "It is with sincere regret that I have to record the death of Mr Henry Rapp, the manager of Rapp's GM Company," which was his mining claim name, "by typhoid fever on the night of the 31st. During the past fortnight, Dr Carroll and Dr O'Connell were unremitting in their efforts to arrest the disease, but latterly the closeness of the temperature precluded any hope of success. The funeral yesterday was very largely attended, thus evincing the high esteem in which the deceased was held by the inhabitants." So this beautiful clear photo that came from the negatives found in that Chatswood garage is the only photo of the couple. Mary went on to marry Anton Marcellus Shell on the 6th of August 1883 at St Joseph's Church in Newtown, New South Wales. Anton was also German, and he'd arrived in New South Wales on the 1st of June 1880 when he was 20. When they married, Anton was 23 and Mary 28. Anton became naturalised in 1898 when he was 38, and he listed himself as a poultry farmer living at Canterbury. His farm was at a place called Nobbs Flat near Canterbury. They had 8 children together, and the family went on a holiday to Germany, departing Sydney in March 1901. On the 8th of October 1908, it says a surprise party taking the form of a banquet was tended to for Mr and Mrs Anton Schell of Marrickville on September the 22nd in the Marrickville Unity Hall, Newtown, in honour of their silver wedding. About 200 friends took part. It was a well-organised surprise, the popular guests having no idea of the affair until the arrival at the hall, where a genuine welcome was accorded them. A toast was proposed to Mr and Mrs Schell when they expressed the wish that they might live to celebrate their golden wedding. Mr Schell, in replying, said it was the greatest surprise he ever got, but an agreeable one of which they were proud. In 1914, Anton was working as a butcher. On the 30th of December 1915, it says notice is hereby given that the partnership subsisting between Anton Schell and Andrew Lawrence Tome, carrying on business as a picture show proprietors at Johnston Street, Annandale, under the name of the Annandale Picture Theatre, has been dissolved. Anton Schell will retire from the firm. And Anton passed away. There was an obituary placed in the paper on the 24th of March 1927. A well-known and much-respected Catholic citizen in the person of Mr Anton Schell died recently at Dulwich Hill at the age of 67. A native of Germany, came to Sydney 50 years ago and became a naturalised subject. He achieved success and helped many others along the path to prosperity. He entered the picture business 17 years ago in the Marrickville Pictures and in the Annandale Theatre. When war broke out, Mr Schell deemed it advisable to retire from the picture business, for which he always held a warm regard. His word was his bond, and his innate good qualities and kindly nature won him the esteem of all those who knew him. A wife and adult family survive. And another article, the death of brother Anton Schell removes from our ranks a practical Catholic and an ardent guildman. He was one of the first trustees of St Bridget's branch of the Guild, of which he was a member for nearly 40 years. During that time, actively being associated with every movement in the welfare of the church. As a committee man of St Bridget's Church, his name was prominently associated with the weekly church collections for many years. And on the 11th of August 1927 at the Dulwich Hill Catholic Church, a generous gift. The sanctuary has been further adorned by 2 statues of angels bearing electrically lit candlesticks placed on pedestals on each side of the altar. Reverend Father Hogan announced on Sunday they were the gift of Mrs Schell in memory of her deceased husband Anton Schell, who passed away a few months ago. And Mary died at the age of 94 on the 10th of March 1949 at her daughter's residence in Vancluse. Mary Sophia Schell, relict of the late Anton Schell, and dearly loved mother of Charles, Rose, Mary, Joseph, Hilda, Clem, Elizabeth and Marcellus. So Anton Schell and Mary Spon's children. The first was Corellis Petrus, Charles Peter Schell, who was born in Glebe, New South Wales on the 17th of August 1884. He married Ethel May Rigney at St Bridget's Church in Marrickville in 1917 when he was 33 and Ethel 28. He was a butcher. They had a daughter, Marie Francoise Schell, in Randwick on the 11th of November 1918. Ethel died 12 days after their daughter's birth, and Marie died on the 16th of May 1920, aged only 18 months. So within 2 years, he had his wife and his young daughter die. Charles went on to marry Doris Carmody in Annandale, New South Wales, on the 29th of May 1920 at St Brendan's. Interestingly, his second marriage occurred only 13 days after the death of his daughter. They had 5 children together. In 1930, Charles was a hotel keeper at Petersham. On the 18th of July 1933, the North British Hotel of Loftus Street, Sydney, was handed over to Charles Peter Schell. And on the 10th of April 1934, the North British Hotel of Loftus Street, Sydney, was passed from John Peter Schell, and he died at Willoughby, New South Wales on the 27th of November 1961 at the age of 78. The second child was Rosa Emerendina Schell, and she was born in Newtown, New South Wales on the 4th of January 1886. She died on the 12th of July 1901 in Bundenheim, Germany. There was a house fire when they were on holidays from Australia, and she was only 15. It says Schell, in a sad but loving remembrance of Rose Schell, who departed this life of Bundenheim by Mainz, Germany, 1901. Short was the call that came from above, no time for goodbye to the ones she loved, inserted by a loving cousin, Millie Schell. The third child, Mary Cecilia Schell, known as Maisie, was born at Undercliff, New South Wales on the 8th of September 1887. She married Harold William Bennett at Petersham in 1911. They had 8 children, and Maisie died in Canterbury, New South Wales, on the 26th of June 1974 at the age of 86. Joseph Alexander Schell was born at Undercliff on the 6th of March 1889. He married Eugenia Emma Gibson at Petersham on the 5th of October 1912. They had 2 boys, and he died at Darlinghurst on the 16th of October 1954, aged 65. Hildegard Agnes Schell, known as Hilda, was born at Nobbs Flat, Canterbury on the 28th of April 1891. She married James Thomas Langdon at Dulwich Hill on the 18th of February 1914, when she was 22 and John 28. They had 8 children, and she died at Castle Hill on the 26th of April 1994 at the age of 102. At the event of her 100th birthday, there was an article in the paper, and it says, Hilda Langdon has seen the advent of radio, talking movies and television. Her happiest memories are of her youth when she played the violin to accompany the movies in her father's theatre at Annandale. Recently, she reached 2 more milestones in her life, 100 years old on Sunday and receiving a birthday telegram from the Queen. Hilda, who lived in Blacktown until 2 years ago, lives with her sister at Castle Hill. But the lady who has seen more than most of us ever will is not about to stop there. I'm hoping to make another 10 years, the mother of 8 said. Hilda has lived in Sydney all her life, apart from a short jaunt in Germany when she was 13. She's been a widow for 45 years, and she shrugged off her children's suggestions to find a boyfriend. In her words, she doesn't want to keep washing other people's shirts. And proving, like wine, that she improves with age, Hilda has a simple reason to describe why she's been allowed to reach the magic 100. She said, I'm not good enough to die. The 6th child, John Clement Schell, known as Clem, was born at Marrickville on the 24th of June 1893. He married Gertrude Florence Jameson at Wallara on the 27th of December 1913. They had 11 children, and he died on the 14th of October 1980 at Balmain, aged 87. Elizabeth Josepha Schell was born at Marrickville on the 28th of December 1895. She married Vincent Jeremiah Carmody at Dulwich Hill on the 15th of December 1915. They had 5 children, and Elizabeth died at Vaucluse on the 27th of May 1981 at the age of 85. And Marcellus Anton Schell, known as Pat, was born in Marrickville on the 11th of May 1896. He married Veronica Larkin in Sydney on the 5th of January 1918. He was a builder. They had a daughter, Dola Rosa Schell, in 1921, and Marcellus died in Randwick on the 17th of December 1984, aged 88. So despite the early untimely death of her husband, going on to marry Anton and having a large family of her own, I'm sure would have given great joy to Mary, and most of her children lived to a very grand age. And Henry Rapp's siblings who came out to Australia, his oldest brother John was 13 years older than Henry, and he came out to Australia on the Daniel Ross in 1855 when he was 25. He was naturalised alongside Henry and another brother on the 16th of June 1869. He listed himself as a miner at Hill End and Tambaroona, and he requested naturalisation to purchase land. John married Mary Elizabeth Hay in 1869 in Sydney. Mary was English and arrived in Australia in 1864, aged 25, as a servant. In May 1872, at Hill End, Tambaroora, Rapp's rich claim, Hawkins Hill, John Rapp, Jacob Rapp and Sebastian Berikung have determined upon returning to Germany, have placed in the hands of the undersigned the whole of their interest in the above valuable claim, being 2 full shares of 6 men's ground. The claim's 180 feet along the line of veins and 600 feet across. The 2 full shares will be divided altogether into 36,000 shares of £1 each, and Mr John Rapp leaves by the next mail, and the whole must be paid on application. The claim is on all of the finest and richest veins in the hill, having tapped both those worked by buyers Holtermann and Croman, and are now raising most splendid stone. The crushings are well known as being regular and constant, at 17 to 21 ounces to the tonne right through, without yet having touched any of the rich veins they are now upon.
And then the Sydney Morning Herald, a fortnight later, the shareholders in Rapp's claim met today and decided that the capital of the company should be £125,000, of which £120,000 is to be represented by the stock held at present and 5,000 shares kept as reserve. There were directors elected, and the local directors were A.H. Cox and John Rapp. And then in the August of 1872 in the Sydney Morning Herald, Rapp's Gold Mining Company, Mr J. Rapp, local director of the company, reports that Croman's vein has been struck in the shaft of a depth of 277 feet from the surface. The stone is the same in appearance as that taken from Carolyn Erd's claim when the vein was first seen there. The vein is now being followed down to gold-bearing level. John and Mary had 4 children. Mr Henry Rapp was born at Tambaroora in 1870. He was known as Henry, and he married Mary Nangle in Newtown, New South Wales in 1894, and they had 3 children. In August 1894, he was listed as being the publican of the City Arms Hotel on the corner of Crown and Stanley Streets, and he handed this publican's licence over at that time. After Casper's death, which I'm unable to find a definitive death record for him, she remarried in 1910. The second child was Johannes Sebastian Rapp, who was born in 1872 at Tambaroora. He married Charlotte F. O'Connor in 1894 at St Leonard's in New South Wales. They had their silver wedding, and it stated that when they married at St Mary's Roman Catholic Church in North Sydney. And John Patrick, second eldest son of the late John Rapp of Newtown, married Charlotte Francis, the second and eldest daughter of the late John Francis O'Connor and granddaughter of the late Dr William Hayes of County Kerry, Ireland, and the niece of the late Dr John Hayes of Tralee, Ireland. They had 7 children, but only 2 survived infancy, and John Rapp died in 1943 at Canley Vale on the 16th of June. And it said that he was born at Hills End 71 years ago and for the past 25 years resided at Canley Vale, where he took an active interest in all local affairs. He was a keen sportsman and a prominent member of the local gun club. In the city, he was employed by the well-known firm William Kerr and Sons of George Street for 50 years. His lifelong interest was in the Society of the St Vincent de Paul, and in the course of his association with it, he was responsible for the opening of a number of conferences and was particularly prominent in the work of hospital visitation. At different times, for a total of about 15 years, he was president of the Cabramatta Conference. His selfless devotion to this work and boundless enthusiasm and unflagging energy were a source of inspiration to all who knew him, and his passing will be mourned by the great numbers who profited by his ministrations. Mr Rapp is survived by his wife and 2 daughters, Margie and Gladys. A guard of honour from the Cabramatta Convent School was formed as the cortege left the house for All Saints Church, Liverpool, where it was received by a guard of honour from the Liverpool Convent School. The third child was William Felix Jacob Rapp, and he was born on the 17th of August 1874 at Hill End. He married Myra Catherine Enneline Denmead on the 30th of April 1900 in Newtown. William was a civil servant who worked in the Postmaster's Department, and they had 1 daughter, and William died in Haberfield in January 1941 at the age of 66. James Jacob Rapp was born at Newtown, New South Wales on the 29th of October 1876. He married Lillian Ida Ross in Manly on the 9th of November 1899. He was a turner and they had 3 children, and James died at Haberfield in September 1957 at the age of 80. Mary died on the 15th of July 1879 at Camden Terrace, Cooks River, New South Wales, aged only 40, when their youngest child James was only 3. There was a notice given that the partnership subsisting between Wenzel Greninger, Ernest Greninger, Jacob Rapp and John Rapp as tanners and leather grinders carrying on at Braidwood in Sydney under the style of Greninger and Rapp has been dissolved. And then it says that Wenzel Greninger, Jacob Rapp and John Rapp have entered into partnership as tanner and boot upper manufacturers under Greninger Rapps, and the business will be carried on at the tannery at Enfield in Pitt Street, Sydney, and that was the 11th of August 1879. John Rapp died in Sydney on the 14th of January 1894, aged 64, and in the administration of his estate, valuable block of land with frontage of King Street South between Camden and Holt Streets, extending to a lane at the rear together with 2 semi-detached cottages in King Street, built of brick on stone foundation, slate roofs with verandas in front, containing each a hall, 7 rooms, bathroom, kitchen and wash house. And the second brother, Jacob, he was born in 1833 and he arrived with his brother John. He applied for naturalisation with the other 2 brothers in 1869. He married Mary Connolly, an Irish girl, in Sydney in 1869 and they had 7 children. And Jacob died in Newtown on the 23rd of November 1898 at the age of 65. So despite Henry Caspar Rapp's early death, his brothers did continue to stay in Australia and have children, and there are descendants of the family today.
If you are interested in sharing your story on my podcast, Family History Mysteries, please go to my Facebook page and send me a message. If you would like some assistance in filling in the gaps in your family tree to see what mysteries you solve, please get in touch. And don't forget you can have early access to episodes by subscribing, and you'll also gain access to bonus episodes.